What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we've got some news, updates and secrets to discuss in Destiny 2. And so first up, Bungie hint at some possible future improvements for the updated quest tab this season. We'll also talk about bugged exotic drops, future unlocks, farming essence of the Oversoul, and some content teasers. But on top of that, we'll talk about some new hidden chests this week, and an upcoming puzzle for Season 22 in the coming weeks. So there are a few things to discuss today. As always, I hope you enjoy the video, and be sure to get subscribed if you do, but now let's get into it. Okay, and so first up today, a few updates from Bungie here, and initially related to Crota's End, Bungie Help said they are aware of reports that some players who defeat Crota in challenge mode aren't unlocking the all-for-one triumph. Just something to take note of there. Hopefully, Bungie will have a solution to that, as there were some teams who completed the day one or contest clear, but didn't actually get that triumph to unlock, which essentially did lock them out from the triumph clear itself. So a pretty frustrating one for any affected players, and hopefully that'll get an update soon. But up next, Destiny Bulletin shared, shortly after the contest mode on Crota's End, players were still able to get the Necrochasm to drop from actually completing Crota. So, of course, outside of contest, Necrochasm is a quest, but very shortly after contest ended, players were still able to claim it without actually completing the quest. It was later on fixed, but a pretty weird one right there, and a few lucky players did manage to pick it up without having to go through the quest steps. Doesn't necessarily help too many of us now, but I just thought it would be interesting in case you didn't know that. In terms of potential future updates though, players have discussed the new featured quest tab, and how on the very first page of that, we don't have the option to sort of track or select which quests are featured. And the Destiny 2 team said we appreciate the feedback on being able to favorite a tab to open other than the main quest page. No promises on a date yet, but it's definitely something we hope to add in the future, so obviously Bungie are thinking about it. Even if we could use the big panels on the front page to track specific quests, as opposed to randomly selected ones, I think that would be a good solution as well. As obviously right now, some of the main quests we're focusing on are actually on the second tab, and considering the feature is supposed to make things easier and quicker, obviously that part isn't necessarily achieving that goal, so hopefully we will get that update, but it's positive that Bungie are at least aware of it and looking into potential solutions. Up next though, let's talk about some hidden things inside of the content refresh this week, and for Savathun Spire, there are a couple of new hidden chests. So the first secret chest is after the opening encounter, and once you've been through both of the lifts and past the first set of swinging lamps, in this sort of cylinder room, there are solar and arc runes, and hitting them with matching elemental weapons will unlock the first hidden chest for the week towards the top of this area. And then following that, after the second combat encounter, once you pass the 4 horizontal door portals, if you turn around here, there are Arc and Void runes below, which we need to hit with matching weapons. Once these two have been hit, if you look across to the other side of the chasm, on the opposite side there are another 2, and hitting these will get the second chest to spawn. After these, there is also a hidden opaque card before the final encounter, up on a ledge opposite the 3 doors on the pillars. But I'll link a video from 360 Game TV below on the location, as I didn't capture this one very clearly. Although interesting this week, looking around Savathun Spire, things have started to change and we can see this sort of swirling mist appearing and leading upwards as the story progresses. And it appears that this will ultimately lead us to one of the secrets of the season, and so a quick spoiler alert is necessary. We're not going to talk about story specific stuff, but in the direction of that strange swirling mist, we'll find a secret in the coming weeks towards the top of the spire. And looking at the triumphs for the season and the title, we've had things like Mirror Mirror to solve the mystery of the Hive Rune Labyrinth in Savathun Spire. But one of the final triumphs is called May You Never Cease, and it requires us to complete the tests in the Embaro engine. There's also a weekly challenge for week 5 of the season to solve the Cunning test in the Embaro engine and identify minor arcana. And so this indicates a sort of mystery or puzzle that we'll find later on in Savathun Spire, and we'll find that in an area towards the top of the spire, in the direction that those sort of swirling mists are leading us in. So it's going to be interesting to see more of that stuff in a couple of weeks' time. We don't know if it'll lead to anything additional. Some folks are asking, are we going to get things like another exotic quest this season? And right now, to be honest, I have no idea, but there are at least additional gameplay elements and minor secrets to find in the coming weeks, so give us your thoughts about that below. Up next though, in relation to Crota's End, some players are farming for essence of the Oversoul at the moment, and it can technically be farmed from encounters on repeat runs, but the drop rates are pretty low when you're doing repeat encounters, so that can be a bit frustrating, although there are 11 triumphs that offer essence as a reward. So if you need essence of the Oversoul, just keep in mind, some of the Crota's End specific triumphs do drop them, although some of them are the higher tier triumphs, like completing all encounters in the raid without dying or leaving the activity. That will drop Essence of the Oversoul ×3. But there are others to complete all encounters at Crota's End with a full fire team of the same class, various triumphs to complete challenge modes like the Conservation of Energy challenge, completing the Abyss encounter in the Stills without letting any player reach 10 stacks of Weight of Darkness, and in future there'll even be some for completing the Master tier of Crota's End. So completion of the quest and the catalyst for Necrochasm is certainly something that takes a bit of time investment now that the contest mode has ended, but of course it is worth keeping in mind that while the quest is pretty grindy, obviously not having the element of RNG for Necrochasm does mix things up quite considerably from what we've seen in previous raids. So it's kind of a trade-off because while collecting Essence of the Oversoul takes a long time, it's certainly better than having to do 50 runs or 60 runs or whatever to pick up the exotic from the raid, right? So there's a bit of a trade-off there, although I totally get that it does require a fair amount of patience. Moving on though to some other quick news bits here, and players have pointed out that it appears Bungie changed the names for the supers that we're going to see in the final shape. So originally, the Warlock super was referred to as Song of Flame, and the Hunter super was called Storm's Edge, and that was in the showcase for final shape. But when we look at the final shapes page, Warlock is now referred to as Blazing Phoenix, and Hunters as the Blink Blade. Whereas the Titan super, the Twilight Arsenal, was referred to by that name in both the showcase and on the webpage. So just something interesting right there. We have seen that previously when Bungie were talking about the subclasses for Lightfall. Titans were originally called Tyrants, but were later renamed to Berserkers, and Warlocks were called Architects, but were later called Broodweavers instead. So some pretty early changes that we're noticing right there, even in the kind of publishing material and the marketing for Final Shape. Something else that players have discussed is the fact that in the LFG tab inside of the showcase, when we can see the team of players right here, we can see Oryx BNG actually has a SIVA themed emblem. So players wonder, could this be a hint that SIVA is going to come back in the future? Obviously, it could mean absolutely nothing. The interesting thing about that emblem is that it was actually one of the hidden emblems for Wrath of the Machine in D1. So it's curious that Bungie would put it there. I imagine they did this intentionally, just because they curate so much of the media that they show off in these showcases. And given that this isn't a Destiny 2 emblem, I would say it feels like it's intentional that it was put there, so maybe it is a teaser, but obviously, at the same time, it could mean absolutely nothing. So we don't really get anything conclusive from that, but of course, Wrath of the Machine is the only remaining raid from Destiny 1 that is not in Destiny 2. And while Joe Blackburn recently said they're not talking about raids for 2024 or beyond just yet, this could be a very soft tease that we might just see Wrath of the Machine or some SIVA-themed content in the future, but take that with a grain of salt, because of course nothing is confirmed just yet. Bungie have spoken about the return of some Season of the Worthy items though, coming in Season of the Witch, and specifically there'll be things dropping from the Eververse store, so we can see some of the armor ornaments right here, and even some of the emotes as well. We don't know the pricing structure for this just yet, but in case you're wondering about these returning items, they definitely are going to drop for silver, and I wouldn't imagine there'll be a purchase option for Bright Dust based on what we've seen. So keep that in mind, although it's not surprising, especially since Bungie are giving away the Eververse armor set for the season, that they're deciding to reprise some of this stuff for silver. There may be an element where they're trying to compensate for some of the missing revenue that they may have had for the armor set that is instead going to become a ritual drop. Also, we don't know when that's going to be just yet. Hopefully, Bungie will give us an indication soon. But I thought it was something interesting that was also worth pointing out right there. The final thing I wanted to mention here, though, is that the voice actor for the Drifter can actually be found in Starfield. And so the Drifter's voice actor is Todd Haberkorn. Hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. He's not actually an actor that I'm overly familiar with in terms of other media that they've been present in, but there's a little clip of him talking inside his Starfield here. And obviously he voices a lot of characters in a voice which is more or less his own, as in he's not putting it on tremendously. But it's kind of bizarre because it almost appears that Drifter is in Starfield, so check this out.
If I am not mistaken, you are new here. I hope you find Hope Town as full of opportunity as the Trade Authority does. A marvelous place, truly laissez-faire. If you have any difficult cargo to unload, I'm happy to oblige.
Credit to Ardabard right there for sharing that clip via Destiny Bulletin. I'd also be curious, are you guys going to be playing Starfield? Let us know down in the comment section. I believe the official release for that is actually this week, so let us know if it's one you're looking forward to down below. And for today, that's what we have to round up in terms of Destiny news. A bit of a mixed bag there, but as always, I'll keep you posted with more content as we get it, as well as news and updates from Bungie. No doubt they'll have more to say soon, so be sure to get subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on anything. If you have enjoyed the video today, a rating below also really does help us out, but otherwise, I appreciate you tuning in as always, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.